Okay, and this is our third installment, woohoo, of our Q&As, and we have our emergency response team coordinator, Mr. Frank Reimann here. I mean, he's just dishing out these answers and I love it. Hopefully he's answering the questions that you all have. And so the third question is, Frank, you have been here to serve as the emergency response coordinator, as I would have said. What is the best way you feel that people can assist during emergency situations?
The question, what can people do in an emergency situation? I think I would actually take that apart in terms of, I see three main components. One is actually being before the emergency. So I think what people can do who live in a country like the Bahamas, where it's very likely that there will be further hurricanes coming and maybe even more severe ones than we have just experienced, that people are prepared. And I think what I mean by that is that you're prepared on a personal, on a family, and on a church level. And whatever that takes for your community, that you think through in an event of an hurricane, what could happen, and we have experienced that it's winds and water that can actually create damage, that you are prepared for that. So make your house safe, store things in the house from water to food, be prepared to have some extra storage to help people who might not have been prepared, or people who have something prepared and their whole house got demolished and all the storage and what they had prepared was as well taken away. So be prepared for that. Have all your emergency things ready. Evacuate if possible before. Establish communications ways with your loved ones in case the communication is not working. All of these things. So being prepared. When it then comes to a disaster, I think what you can do and what you have to do is obviously you have to take care of yourself. Like the good old ad in the airline, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help anybody else. So first and utmost, you obviously make sure that you yourself are okay and safe, and then you reach out to other people around you, most likely starting with the people right around you, your family and so forth. And that continues to, I think, apply as the disaster is either ongoing or is stopping. So as soon as the winds have settled or things are getting better, you make sure that you are safe and that you are have everything that you need, and then you start reaching out to other people. And so you are using all your human instincts by helping others around you, and you offer help if you can. If you're in a position that you can share something, that's what you do. If you're not in a position to share something, you need help, you overcome any pride you might have left and you just reach out and you accept help from whoever can help you. And then as such, you as a community organize yourselves, and I think there's a lot what the church can do going forward in the Bahamas to be prepared. That church groups are aware of what could happen and how they could respond after, like we did here. Very quickly, I think the church was organized and was providing hot meals to community members. And I think that's exactly what we are asked to do and organize. I think for other people who might not have directly impacted by the disaster and who have seen that and who are close by, what you can do is, I think, obviously, and I think that's not to take that lightly, is that you pray. I think prayer is a very important dimension in this, and that we are reaching out to the Holy Spirit and to God and express our concerns, our love, but that's obviously not all. What you can do, and I think what is most important, is that you are coordinating what you're doing. So if you want to get involved either by volunteering and saying I want to go over there and help, you coordinate that through the official coordination sites, which in this case will most likely be ADRA Bahamas. You contact the country director either beforehand already and say the disaster is coming, I would be ready to help, or afterwards. You as well can coordinate through your local church. You as a church can coordinate with ADRA, say we are available to assist. And so as much as possible to coordinate or build in what you do with others around you. Be as well aware of what other organizations and churches are doing. In times of disaster, it's actually not important, I think, where people get help. So if the neighboring church, the Baptist or the Pentecostal church, whoever it is, if they already have a soup kitchen and there's enough food available for that community, we don't have to start another soup kitchen. We might to look at and think about what that church is not offering, what we can offer. Or even beforehand already to talk to them. Then if you want to send items, I think it would be very important that as much as it's tempting, that you do not take decisions on behalf of people who have been affected by the disaster and decide for them what you think they need. Even though a lot of the things that have been received, I think, here have been helpful, I think it's much easier if you would contact the country director and say, what can we send? What can we buy to send to you? What can we collect to send to you? I think people in a disaster obviously need many things. And as much as I think it is acceptable that somebody would get a used pair of shoes or some clothes that have been used before you wear nothing, I think it's equally important that somebody who has lost everything, if they would get a new pair of shoes, that would be much nicer than a used pair of shoes. So there's nothing wrong, I think, in sending maybe used clothes or other items, but only do so if that has been expressed by the country director or the coordinator as an identified need. And there might be situations where that is exactly the case, where people say, we just need shoes, it doesn't matter, it don't have to be new, any kind of shoe in this size, so we send it. Be aware of, though, if you send items, think through how long it takes for the things to reach there. Think through the associated cost for shipping it, including the clearing on the other end. Make sure you provide all the funds for the shipment. Don't just ship the container and leave the receiving end with clearing it, because there are costs associated, and it creates work. So if there's volunteers who then have to unpack the containers and then distribute them, and that's obviously a lot of work and has to be well coordinated. The third part is you can actually as well just send money, and that in most cases I would really advocate for that. To actually talk to the country office, talk to your church and say, we would like to help, and really think through before you go and collect money and then buy things and ship them, pay the money for shipping them. Sometimes it's much easier to actually just give the money, donate the money, and let the country office in the situation make the procurement of things that are needed. Now, that is a very dynamic environment. In the first couple of weeks of a disaster, it makes a lot of sense to actually ship things, because most likely there's nothing else that can be purchased in this situation. Now, in the initial response, what is needed initially. Water is always very good. Some basic food items which can be easily cooked. Remember that what people get on the other end, if you send them macaroni and cheese in a package that actually needs water and a stove to cook it, that package of macaroni and cheese is only as good as the water and the stove and the pot you get with it. So if you send something like this, you have to send the whole set. You have to send a pot, you have to send something to cook it with a little gas burner, and you have to set probably the water. Now, that in itself answers part of the question. That's quite complicated to ship and to distribute. So with that, I'm coming back to ask what is needed. Before you get active, ask what is needed on the other end. This can actually well planned by thinking this through beforehand, and to have a disaster preparedness plan, and to think through as a church community, to think through, if we as a church are affected, this is how we would like to organize ourselves, and we already maybe pre-position some water, and we have as well some food in storage, and so what we need then in the moment we can express. Or if we are ready to donate, we can as well think that through beforehand, and can have volunteers organized, or we can already have funds set aside to do that. So that's, I think, all I can think of.
Thank you.